First off, we ought to obey the Constitution, live within our means, and balance the budget, quit warmongering, and quit the welfare state. Those minor things like that. But eventually, you don't need the Federal Reserve. Conservatives love it because you can pay the military bills. Liberals love it because you can pay the welfare state bill. But it's all deception. It's all a tax. It eventually destroys and hurts the very people you're trying to help.
With us now, Republican candidate in the Kentucky Senate race, Dr. Rand Paul. He's the son of former presidential candidate and Congressman Ron Paul. Thanks for being with us, Rand. Let me start by asking you, are you as much of a big government liberal as your father?
I heard that voice. I recognize that voice. You know, I think we might be considered to be constitutionalists, limited government. You know, the main thing that motivates me to run for office is the debt. I think we're drowning in a sea of debt. I think our country's going the wrong direction. I sense that uneasiness, though, and that discontent that's out there. I've been to these Tea Party movements. I've spoken to 700 people in Bowling Green. The largest political event ever in Bowling Green was a Tea Party, and it's not Republicans, it's not Democrats, and it's not just people unhappy about taxes. They're mostly worried about debt. They're worried about the degree of debt of our country, and they're people who truly say our kids and our grandkids will pay for this debt. And I go one step further. I think it's more imminent that we will pay for this debt through inflation within a year or two, and that's when the push comes to shove.
Rand, let me ask you this question. Are you finding, like the New York Times found, the Washington Post found, a lot of mainstream media outlets found of this protest this past weekend, that there are a lot of conservatives out there that are very disappointed in the Republican Party, that wasn't a Republican protest, that was a conservative protest. Are you finding that, and do you think that could help your chances in basically upsetting the GOP's best laid plans this fall?
Right. Absolutely. I go to GOP picnics now, and I say I've yet to meet a Republican primary voter who would have voted for the bank bailout, and yet half of your Republican leadership did vote for the bank bailout, and I say this is your time for new leadership, and I don't get booed, I don't get things thrown at me. From the GOP establishment, I'm having people quietly come up to me and say, yes, we did fail. We didn't do a very good job with the deficit. You know, we get an A+ for reducing taxes, but we get a C- for reducing spending. So we as Republicans, we lost our believability on the debt, and we've got to do something to regain our believability.
Well, Rand, let me help you out here, because you may not be able to say it because you're running in a Republican primary and I'm not. We don't get a C- for reducing spending. We get an F. It was past 8 years, horrific. We spent at a faster rate than any Congress before. Let's go to Pat Buchanan. He's got a question for you, Rand. Pat.
Yeah, Rand, right now we're spending something like 26-27% at the federal level of the gross national product, probably collecting in taxes 17%. That's 10% of the entire economy. How do you cut the budget of the United States by 10% of GDP? Where do you start chopping?
Right. Well, I tell people that I won't vote for any unbalanced budget, and that's where you start, Republican or Democrat. How do you cut it? I think you have to make it simple, and you have to tell people in a simple way how you would balance the budget. I think you introduce 2005 budget next year. You know, let people know that in 2005 we spent $3 trillion. Could we not get by with $3 trillion? We've gone from $2 trillion in 2002 to $4 trillion. We've doubled the amount of spending. I think you have to just say enough's enough. And I think the problem with Republicans right now is that Obama's budget was $1.75 trillion in debt, but the Republican alternative was $500 billion in debt with a 10-year plan to balance the budget. I always say our balance the budget plans are sort of like the old Soviet agricultural plans. They mean nothing, and the numbers never mean anything, and we never achieve our goals on balancing the budget. I mean, even President Obama, they said, oh, he's going to cut the deficit in half. Well, he tripled the deficit in 1 year, and he's going to cut it in half in 4 years. Things are out of control, but there's an uneasiness out there, and people sense it, Republican and Democrat. There is definitely a discontent out there.
Dr. Rand Paul,
no doubt about
doing the math for us. Thank you very much. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rand.
Thank you.
We've got to have you back.
Next time I want to go to Seattle. I want to come to Seattle next time.
We'll get you there. Thank you so much, Rand. Coming up next, economist Peter Schiff has a major announcement. Now, he, of course, is the guy that predicted the collapse of
He
Wall
did.
Street, the collapse of the mortgage market, and everybody laughed at him. They're not laughing anymore. When we come back, he's got a major announcement on whether he's going to run for the U.S. Senate against Chris Dodd. That's when Morning Joe, brewed by Starbucks, returns.